Good morning, church family. Today we come to Psalm 55. Psalm 55 is one of the types of psalms we've looked at called a psalm of lament, where the poet brings to God all his trouble, crying out for God to enter a terrible situation. Many people think that Psalm 55 was written when David had been betrayed and rebelled against by his son Absalom, and his closest advisor and friend Ahithophel had turned against him in the rebellion. So David writes this psalm when he has been betrayed and attacked by every human connection and friend he has. And in looking at it, we can start to get a little sense of how we ought to come in lament when things don't work the way we wanted them to be. In lament, the Psalms call out to God for help, and that's exactly how this story begins as David writes this psalm. He says, "Give ear to my prayer, O God, and hide not yourself from my plea for mercy. Attend to me, answer me. I'm restless in my complaint, and I moan because of the noise of the enemy, because of the oppression of the wicked. For they drop trouble upon me, and in anger they bear a grudge against me. My heart is in anguish within me. The terrors of death have fallen upon me. Fear and trembling come upon me, and horror overwhelms me." So if you think of those first 5 verses, David has been betrayed. He is literally in danger of death. He lives in fear. He lives in horror. It's a life that we can understand, not because human enemies are attacking us right now, but because we live with a creeping disease all around us. And look at what David does. He says, verse 6, "I wish I could just fly away. And I say, oh, that I had wings like a dove. I would fly away and be at rest. Yes, I would wander far away. I would lodge in the wilderness. I would hurry to find a shelter from the raging wind and tempest." In the face of utter fear and of terror, he wishes he could just fly away, leave it all behind. Don't you understand that? Don't you feel it? But then look what happens. Verse 9. He comes back to the present because he can't just fly away. And so he prays for God to deliver them. He says, "Destroy, O Lord, divide their tongues. For I see violence and strife in the city. Day and night they go around it on its walls, and iniquity and trouble are within it. Ruin is in its midst. Oppression and fraud do not depart from its marketplace." So David says, divide their tongues, meaning turn all my enemies against each other so they can't succeed in the evil that they are perpetrating. And then it gets really personal. He says, "For it is not an enemy who taunts me, then I could bear it. It's not an adversary who deals insolent with me, then I could hide from him. But it's you, a man, my equal, my companion, my familiar friend. We used to take sweet counsel together. We even within God's house walked together in the throng." And so in very strong poetic language, he calls out for God to avenge him. He says, "Let death steal over them. Let them go down to Sheol alive, for evil is in their dwelling place and in their heart. But I call to God, and the Lord will save me. Evening and morning and at noon I utter my complaint and moan, and he hears my voice. He redeems my soul in safety from the battle that I wage, for many are arrayed against me. God will give ear and humble them, he who is enthroned from of old, because they do not change and they do not fear God." So finally he moves to conclude. He says, "My companion stretched out his hand against his friends. He violated his covenant. His speech was smooth as butter, yet war was in his heart. His words were softer than oil, yet they were drawn swords." So David comes back to the situation that he has been betrayed by deceitful people. And he closes by saying this, "Cast your burden on the Lord, and he will sustain you. He will never permit the righteous to be moved. But you, O God, will cast them down into the pit of destruction. Men of blood and treachery shall not live out half their days. But I will trust in you." Now, church family, think what just happened in this psalm. David is facing real threat of death. And in face of that, he wants to do exactly what we would want to do, which is run away from it all. But David realizes that's a false answer. Running away doesn't fix anything. So instead, he turns back again and he prays for God to enter his situation. And as he prays, and though he still lives in danger, something happens, and he starts to move to confidence. He starts to move to a trust in God. And so when we lament, when things have gone terribly wrong, of course we wish we could just get away from it all. But the better thing is to realize that's just running, and we don't even succeed at running away. Instead, we need to turn back and say, with God on my side, I can face whatever the day may bring. Because even though he slay me, yet in the end, I know my deliverance is safe and sure. So let's do that together today.